President Trump is dialing back criticism of outgoing British Prime Minister Theresa May while renewing his attacks on other British leaders. The president and the prime minister spoke earlier today after meeting for about an hour. They discussed a range of topics, including Brexit. May resigned over the issue last month, though he previously criticized May's handling of the negotiations. President Trump appeared to change his tune today.
She's probably a better negotiator than I am, Jeremy. But you know what? She has got it, in a sense, John. That deal is teed up. I think that deal is really teed up. I think they have to do something. And perhaps you won't be given the credit that you deserve if they do something. But I think you deserve a lot of credit. I really do. I think you deserve a lot of credit.
Meanwhile, thousands of protesters demonstrated against President Trump in London. He passed them off as very small, which is relatively true compared to the hundreds of thousands of protesters who took to the streets the last time the president visited the UK in 2018. I want to bring in Ian Lee from London and Kevin Cirilli at the White House. Ian is a CBS News correspondent. Kevin is chief Washington correspondent for Bloomberg. So, Ian, I want to start with you. Up until now, we know President Trump has really been pretty critical of Theresa May's handling of Brexit. You know, trade was a big topic today. How did it all go with the prime minister?
I think what we just heard from the president was a nice parting gift for Theresa May, who steps down as prime minister and becomes acting prime minister until they elect a new one at the end of this week. They talked a lot about trade. They talked about the need to have close ties between the United Kingdom and the United States, and that they would like to have a fair trade deal. But really not much you can talk about with someone who's on their way out. They're going to have to talk. The president's going to have to talk with who comes next, and that is going to be the real challenge. But they did reaffirm that there is a need for these close ties, these close economic ties between the two countries. And even at this breakfast that they had with business leaders earlier today, they pointed out that 1 million Americans work for British companies and 1 million Brits work for American companies, and so they wanted to highlight that. But again, Theresa May, not a lot of people would say that she has done a good job with trying to get Brexit through.
Yeah, it's fascinating just to see how the winds have changed for the president on this. But, it's interesting, Kevin, the president continued to weigh in on who he believes should succeed the prime minister. He actually even requested a meeting with one of the top picks today, British Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt. Is it normal? I mean, it really isn't, to be honest, for a U.S. president to engage in these kinds of talks. But why do you think the president is doing this?
When I speak to sources close to the White House and even dating back to my time in covering President, then candidate Donald Trump on the campaign trail, this is someone who feels a close ideological connection to the people who have supported the issue of Brexit. He feels that it's the same populist tide that helped to give rise to his ascendance into the White House. And so on the issue of Brexit, on the issue of President Donald Trump's administration, he sees a lot of similarities. It is somewhat unusual to see a sitting U.S. president engaging so incredibly being outspoken on the issue of foreign politics while he's off American shore. But that said, he also took aim at the London mayor, Sadiq Khan, and this is a back and forth that has extended for years now as the president has gone after him, both at that press conference just a few hours ago and also via social media on Twitter.
You know what? We actually have that sound. I want to play that for you for what he had to say.
Well, I think he's been a not very good mayor, from what I understand. He's done a poor job. Crime is up, a lot of problems. And I don't think he should be criticizing a representative of the United States that can do so much good for the United Kingdom. We talked about it before. He should be positive, not negative. He's a negative force, not a positive force. And if you look at what he said, he hurts the people of this great country. And I think he should actually focus on his job. It'd be a lot better if he did that. He could straighten out some of the problems that he has and probably some of the problems that he's caused.
So, Ian, walk us through this feud between the mayor of London and President Trump.
Well, this feud goes back years, but I'll give you the recent cliff notes. It started off really when Sadiq Khan had an article in the Guardian newspaper talking about the president's visit, saying that they shouldn't be unfurling the red carpet. President Trump tweeted back right as he was touching down in the UK, saying that Sadiq Khan was a stone-cold loser. And Sadiq Khan responded to that by saying that those kind of words were beneath the president. And then you had these recent comments from the president, and then even then, Sadiq Khan came out out and said that Donald Trump was the poster boy of the far right. So there's no love lost there. But for Sadiq Khan, of course he has real problems with the president and his policies, but this also does raise his profile here as well to get his name out there to say, see, I can take on the president, who a lot of people see as unpopular here. And you know, he isn't the only one doing that. If you look at Jeremy Hunt too, trying to get a meeting with the president, this also is raising his image as well. You know, a lot of politicians want to be seen as being able to either take on the president or be able to stand next to the president in any sort of these meetings like Theresa May. So you could see Jeremy Hunt do that. He met the president on the tarmac when he landed. Also, you have Michael Gove, who's also trying to get a meeting with the president. So a lot of politicians here are taking advantage of this state visit.
Yeah, no, you know, access to the president is something that's important, particularly on a foreign trip or whether it's a foreign dignitary coming to the White House. You know, Kevin, the president didn't really outright address policy issues earlier, and specifically, you know, his trade threats against Mexico. What did he have to say today about that?
Well, it was interesting to hear the president via Twitter just within the last 24 hours or so, Rena, suggest that he might be able to give some waivers, some exemptions on these tariffs to European nations, provided that there be some type of departure from the UK, from the EU on the issue of Brexit. So he's lumped together Brexit and the issue of trade policy on that front. But then back here in the United States, I can tell you that Republicans up on Capitol Hill, just within the shortened congressional work week that they have, are increasingly speaking out against the president's threats to increase tariffs to 25% against Mexico. Yesterday, I spoke with Senator Joni Ernst, a Republican from Iowa. She tells me that she's hearing from farmers in her state who have been absolutely pummeled by the floods and the storms this season, and they're increasingly nervous and skeptical about what those tariffs might be able to do for their bottom lines. She also said that the tariffs might not help passage of USMCA in the Senate, the Republican-controlled Senate. I also spoke with Anthony Scaramucci, of course, the former White House, short-lived former White House communications director, but he, of course, is the founder of also the financial firm Skybridge Capital, and he told me that he's hearing from investors on Wall Street that they're increasingly skeptical about what these tariffs might do for long-term uncertainty in the U.S. economy.